So much media, so little time. Who keeps track of it all? That would be me. This is Bob Andelman, and this is the Mr. Media Interview, broadcast and recorded live on blogtalkradio.com from the new Media and American League Baseball capital of the world, St. Petersburg, Florida. If you think you're miserable right now, wait until Lia and Nick Romeo get through with you. The Romeos, their brother and sister, not husband and wife, just published a new book titled 11,002 Things to Be Miserable About. And what a miserable book it is. The introduction, in fact, says the book will make you laugh, cry, and contemplate self-mutilation. Just think about that for a minute. Think an airplane crash landing in the Hudson River is bad? Or the largest bank in America needing another $20 billion bailout? That's miserable? How about these more simple miseries? Being spit on from a great height. The fact that Coca-Cola can be used to clean highways. Or that there are cultural variations in hygiene. Lia and Nick, welcome to Mr. Media.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
How are you guys?
Great. How are you?
I'm not sure who, but one of you needs to move a little bit the telephone away from your mouth, if you would.
Sure.
Okay.
Picking up.
Better?
There we go. Much better. Thank you.
Okay.
So, now, no disrespect intended, but are you two the most miserable brother and sister combination in publishing history?
In terms of publishing, we may well be. In our personal lives, we're actually just fine. We're actually pretty happy and excited to have our first book coming out. But we do find that it's fun to write about.
What do you blame? Well, see, now you just screwed me up. I was going to ask you, what do you blame your own personal misery on? But what you're saying is that you're not miserable. You're quite happy and well-adjusted? I'm shocked.
I think it would have been impossible for us to spend 6 months deeply immersed in writing about everything that's depressing in the world if we were also depressed in our own lives. I think that would have just been too much. So, no, I think personally we're doing all right.
Yeah, there was actually an interesting kind of inverse relationship. As we were writing the book, now and then we would ask friends to contribute items, and the people with difficult lives always were fairly silent. And then the people who were doing great, they would go for hours about all the misery in the world.
Well, let me ask you this. If Kathy Bates in the movie Misery might be the god of being miserable, would that make Bobby McFerrin the Antichrist?
It's possible.
Well, there's a lot of silence. So,
I have to confess, we're looking at each other. We don't know who Bobby McFerrin is.
Bobby McFerrin. He did the song "Don't Worry, Be Happy."
Oh, okay. Well,
okay, you guys must be kind of young.
I think a better candidate for the Antichrist might actually be Barbara Ann Kipfer, who wrote the book 14,000 Things to Be Happy About. And that's the charming and cheerful book that inspired our great tome of misery.
What was it about that book that so inspired the two of you? Just because this poor lady was happy?
We just found it very entertaining, and not in the way it was intended, I don't think. But a friend of mine actually gave me that book about 10 years ago in high school when I was feeling down, sort of as a joke. And subsequently, we would always pull it out at parties and read through it because it was just so absurd. It was just such a ridiculous compendium of fluffy bunnies and happy kittens and all of these ridiculous Hallmark things that we sort of had a visceral reaction against it, I think, and wanted to do something very different.
How long did you think about it before you decided to do kind of the inverse of that book?
We'd actually been turning it over in our minds for a long time. I think Nick came up with the idea years ago when we first saw the original book. He said, it would be funny to do a parody. But at that point, it didn't seem like writing a book was something we could just decide to do. And then about a year ago, we decided to just look up some literary agents online and send a query letter to them and see if anybody was interested, and ended up getting our agent fairly quickly from that and then getting a publisher. So we just decided to go ahead and do it.
Huh. Was it fun to do this?
Oh, it was a lot of fun. I mean, I think what's strange is for us, and probably for a lot of other people, it actually makes us much happier to read about, and fog obscured sunsets rather than happy puppies and perfect sunsets. It's much more fun to think about the darker sort of opposites of all of the things in the first book. So yeah, it made us kind of immensely happy, and then it was also a good chance to educate ourselves in certain dark areas, like brutal massacres from history, strange and terrifying medical diseases. Of course, current events were a rich source of material. We learned a lot of things, like the fact that there are more the fact that there are more McDonald's in the world than there are hospitals. Hundreds of other little facts that depress people.
And I think especially in times like these where people are feeling fairly depressed and worried about how things are going generally, it is, in a sense, comforting to see how much worse things could be, which is exactly, I think, what this book can do for you.
What was the first miserable thing that you came up with?
Death is the first thing in the book. We were just sitting on a couch passing a legal pad back and forth was how it started, and I think I wrote down death, and I passed it to Nick, and Nick wrote down life, and we went from there. So.
And how does working with your brother or sister, how does that work out? I don't think I could do that with my brother or my sister.
Well, we've always been very close, and we've always sort of worked on projects together. So, I mean, it was sort of a natural progression for us. When we were younger, we used to write a neighborhood newspaper together and put on plays together and all of that kind of thing. So we've always worked together well, I think.
Yeah, I mean, if we had some, terrible, acrimonious relationship, that would have been useful in material for the book. But no, we're lucky in that we work very well together.
How old are you guys?
I'm 27.
And I'm 24.
Okay. Oh, and is Nick the baby, or is there younger?
No, they're younger siblings as well. Our youngest little brother is actually 8 years old, and he even added an item to the book. He was quite proud of himself as an 8-year-old reading a book about misery. But yeah, his contribution to the book, if I remember correctly, this is my 8-year-old brother. He said that not having enough to eat was a good reason to be miserable, and I would agree.
Yeah, that's true. It's not even funny, frankly. Lia, I think it's your phone. I'm getting a lot of I don't know if it's breathing or other noise. I don't know. Maybe you're outside, but I'm getting a lot of noise from your phone.
Okay, I'll try holding it farther away. Sorry, no, okay. we are inside, but.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Try holding it up.
I noticed the book does not have page numbers, and I'm wondering if that would be miserable thing number 11,003.
That's funny. I mean, I think it wasn't intended to be a searchable index necessarily, so that may have been the basis for that decision. It's very much a random list and something you just flip through and discover new things about the world that are terrible.
Because I was thinking, okay, so if I wanted to tell somebody, oh, you got to check out this thing on page, I don't know, oh, go to page something. There was a thing about diaphragms, and I realized, oh, I can't give them a page number. So when you do the sequel, will you make that the first thing in the sequel?
We'll make a note of it. That was a publishing decision, so we'll pass that along.
Now the book's as we're talking, the book has only been out maybe days. But have you already been hearing from people who are suggesting more miserable things?
We are, and we have been all along, actually. Whenever we would tell friends about this project, people would be excited and they'd want to contribute. So we have quite a few contributions from friends in the first book. And we are considering the possibility of follow-on books like 11,002 Things for Women to be Miserable About, for instance. And we would hope that we would get some user-generated content in those, both because that would be fun, and because then we wouldn't have to write all of them.
Yeah, I think it was very cathartic for quite a few of our friends to be able to contribute. You know, people would gladly add some kind of shockingly autobiographical material at times, and you would cringe a bit and then write it down and wish them the best.
What kind of things did not make the list?
Well, you know, we cast a pretty wide net. 11,002 is a fairly epic number. That being said, there were some cuts. There were some failures.
We did try to avoid anything that was incredibly offensive. We tried to avoid things that were too personal, too recent. Like, we'd put a massacre that happened in the 1800s. We wouldn't put a massacre that happened last year, probably. So there is a line to walk between something that people can laugh at and something that people are just going to cry about. So
exactly. And I think a great quote that illustrates that line, this is one of Leah's favorite quotes. It's Tom Robbins, if I'm correct. The thing about walking into an open...
Oh, yes, it's Mel Brooks, actually. Okay. And one of my favorite quotes about comedy that we sort of had in the back of our minds when we were working on this, he says, "Tragedy is when I cut my finger, and comedy is when you walk into an open sewer and die."
All right. I can buy that. And now I understand you guys also came up with 50 things to be miserable about in the new year. Are these from the list, or are these in addition to the list?
Some are from the list and some are new. We tried to do a few that would be sort of topical and particular to the new year. And then I was flipping through the book at the same time that I was just coming up with things that seemed particularly appropriate.
Is the list, you know, do you think of the things that go on the list as being ironic or laugh out loud funny, or, you know, are they all of the above?
I think there's a mixture. I think some are just outright funny, some are ironic, some are probably just sad, and hopefully some you'll learn things. You know, we've got a lot of facts, a lot of statistics, a lot of historical events. So
that being said, I'm not sure it's psychologically healthy to read straight through the book. I had one friend who had received a copy and was reading straight through. They had a bookmark in, and they were maybe 100 or so pages in. And you know, I suggested that maybe they should try browsing, but they were determined to read their way through all 11,002 things. That would be hard, and that's just you know, it's nice. The book is it's like, I don't know what you call that, pocketbook size. It's a little bigger than pocketbook size, but it's smaller than a paperback and bigger than a Big Little book. Actually, I guess it is about a Big Little book. I'm just flipping the pages open, so people who are not familiar with the book but might be listening and want to check it out. I'll give you some of the things that I randomly hit on. Movies about hookers with hearts of gold. Munchausen by proxy, in which parents tell their children that they're sick when they're not. Yeah, that's a bad one. That's just, let's see. Guilt by association. Being caught surfing for porn at work. Yeah, I could see that being a problem. So how many more items have you come up with since finishing?
Well, we stopped. We were keeping lists, and I actually had to stop myself because I'd gotten so used to mentally cataloging, like, oh, this was annoying that happened to me today. Let me write it down. And I had to train myself to stop doing that. But we're maintaining a blog now called thingstobemiserablebout.com, where we post depressing news stories, depressing videos, and we have a feature called the Miserable Fact of the Day, where we post a new depressing fact or statistic each day. So we've added quite a few of those.
And how do you follow up a book like this? I mean, we've already got an infinite supply of miserable movies, miserable TV shows, and miserable websites, right?
We do, yeah, but I mean, we've got plans for an empire. Assuming things go well, we'd like to go from the blog, possibly start a line of T-shirts, start a page-a-day calendar. I think the possibilities are endless for miserable merchandise, really. I mean, there's so much merchandise out there about being happy, like the Life is Good T-shirts, for instance, like the original book, 14,000 Things to Be Happy About, and I think that all of it could be turned around.
Well, it's a great concept, and of course, I should point out the unsmiling smiley face on the cover. Well, folks, you can order Lia and Nick Romeo's book, 11,002 Things to Be Miserable About, at bookstores everywhere, or you can order it online at MrMedia.com. You can also visit their website, which is www.thingstoBeMiserableAbout.com. That's all solid, like one word, thingstoBeMiserableAbout.com. And Lia and Nick, good luck with the book, and thank you so much for joining us on Mr. Media.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Take care. And of course, for more great interviews, you can surf over to our main website, www.mrmedia.com. That's where you can listen to my earlier conversations with everyone from Kirk Douglas and Billy Bob Thornton to Guy Kawasaki, Renee Seiler, and many, many more. Please think about writing an online review of Mr. Media, casting a vote for Mr. Media, or marking Mr. Media as one of your favorites, whether you listen on Blog Talk Radio, Pointer Online, Digital Journal, Podcast Pickle, Vox, Folio, Mediafly, Podfeed.net, Blueberry, Zencast, or Odeo. And subscribe to Mr. Media on iTunes, and you'll never miss a show. Just search Mr. Media Interviews from within iTunes and subscribe for free. You can also listen in some locations with a piece of string and a tin can. If you've got an idea for a guest, email me directly at bob@andelman, ANDELMAN.com. You can also follow me on Facebook or on Twitter, www.twitter.com/Andelman. Thanks so much for joining us today. I always appreciate when you give up a little piece of your day to spend it with us.